I'm Texas forever.
All these structures make me anxious. Look, I'm just tryna f you, not them hoes you came with. Pull up on 6 so loud and banging. Yeah, Texas forever, still twisting my fingers. Texas forever, you speaking my language. Look, all in the day, but Wednesday. Out in the field trying to score me a deal. Put my name by that X like I'm Kimbe. I do it off of my team, just a young covered in green like I'm Dende. We ain't projects comprende. Clutch city, crush city, whatever you call it. I stay with my friends, stay hands in, never hand out. Look, I had to go get it, my everybody say I'm the man now. Wrist moving in and out the kitchen, my might pull up on 6 in the whip, whipping it. I'm just a young getting it. All I had was the pot I was pissing in. Now everybody want pieces, percentages. I'm just trying to get my niggas over. I did the work that these niggas won't. All this money, cash, cars, clothes, hoes, coming in fast, but I'm sipping slow. Cause it's Texas forever. You already know. It's more down at
Texas forever.
We are Texas forever. Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you all for hanging out with me on a special edition Saturday of the H-Town Huddle. Wasn't able to go live this last Wednesday for various reasons, but the most important one was that we weren't getting really good news out of Houston as far as what was going on, who was starting. Nico Collins, was Nico the Freako back this week? So I just figured I'd wait. We'd get something off for you guys on Saturday, get you more information. That way it's just not a, well, we don't know, and it's a whole speculation type of show. So instead of doing that kind of noise, all that jazz, what we ended up doing was pushing the show back for the weekend to see if we can get the most information for everybody regarding this Sunday night matchup in Week 10 versus the Detroit Lions at home for Battle Red Week. Hence the red T-shirt, hence the red thumbnail for the YouTube and all of that. So appreciate everybody for hanging out with me on a Saturday afternoon at roughly 4:20 p.m. Central Time. And if you notice the background there, that is aerial footage of the Texans home field for the weekend. So looking pretty good. They got it. The end zone's painted up with the horns on the sides there, ready to rock and roll. So good news, right? Coming out of the gates, like we said, Nico Collins will lead the podcast off with some of that stuff. And the other news that's been breaking as well, some of the other injuries. We'll talk about the Lions injuries. We'll talk about the matchups. We'll talk about the offensive line, obviously, like we do every week. And then maybe some of the things that to remedy that. We'll talk about what the coaches said a little bit. And then, of course, you know, your fantasy starts and sits. But I think you guys, by this point of the season, already know who you're plugging in. But this is a Sunday night game. And so just wanted to come out and break all of the injury news for you guys. That way you're well prepared for everything that's happening tomorrow. Let's go ahead and check in with everybody in the chat. Derek, a salute, man. Ghost Monkey, saw him there early. A special edition of the Saturday, or a special Saturday edition of the H-Town Huddle. Lee, appreciate you. Derek Guccini, everybody else at the GWN Network. Make sure you guys are checking out the mothership show, the flagship channel that launches all these other shows underneath us. And, you know, we're just out here getting it, putting in the work and doing our due diligence for everybody in the fantasy community. And we appreciate you guys. So thanks a lot. They do have one other special announcement. Hey, Philip, what's up, man? Appreciate you as well. Everybody else, go ahead and drop a like and a comment in the chat. Show some support. Let me know how you feel. I won't be mad as far as predictions go. If you guys are thinking the Lions will take this one, most of the public has the Lions, and we'll talk about the line and the line moving a little bit after the Nico Collins news. But yeah, like I mentioned, there's NRG Stadium from an aerial perspective, looking really sharp. So if you're going to make it out to the game, get there early, make some noise, be in your seats by the time it starts. It's a night game, no excuses, Houston. So appreciate everybody out there, all my fellow Texans. Like I said, Texas forever. We rocking, baby. So yeah, some other interesting anecdotes or notes about the NRG. The roof will be open. So that's a new cool little twist that they decided to throw there. So there's a nice shot of NRG Stadium with their roof open. There probably will be some fireworks after the win anyway, the last time they had the roof open. So it'd be nice if they'd get some fireworks either beforehand or just, you know, I don't anticipate a win. I'll come tell you guys right now, but I do think it'll be a competitive game, and hopefully they'll have a chance there sometime in the fourth quarter to maybe steal it away. But perhaps use the fireworks before the game, get everybody pumped. That might help that way in case you don't have a chance to use them later. But here's an on-field shot of the field looking nice and crisp. Players with the candy paint red helmets on, as you can see there, Derek Stingley and some other players in the background. So really pumped for that. Everybody's in the red out. I got my red Nico Collins jersey right here, the new one, with the horns on the sleeves. There he is, Collins. So good to see number 12 back, obviously. And like I mentioned, the new uniforms, there's Tank, dripping out, all dripped out. There's a nice edit of Andre Johnson, the great. And then, of course, here's Nico looking killer. And there's another shot taken from the promo videos, promo stills from early on in the season when they first released the uniform. So that's an idea of what you'll be seeing Sunday night. I think the Lions are going to go with their white uniforms, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't catch a like a promo clip or something like that. But there's a site that I follow on Twitter. He covers all the matchups. It's about fashion or whatever, so football fashion. And so he's pumped up for the battle red versus whatever the Lions decide to go with. Lions have a lot of different combinations that they could try. But yeah, here we are. Here we are. Yeah, helmet's nasty though. Hell yeah, and the flamed up Nico. Yeah, that's killer, man. It's killer. So that's the big news, right? The line opened at, I believe it was -5.5, -5.5. Texans home dogs at -5.5 without Nico Collins. I think the line moved a little bit in anticipation of him being started. Aaron Wilson first reported when the news broke. Remember, it was he passed all the tests. He was running 20 miles an hour, hamstrings fine, no setbacks, and then it was just a matter of when, not if when he would be activated, right? And so they designated the window to open up, and at 21 days, like, they could still choose to not play him. From right now, he is listed as questionable, kind of like a game time decision. I don't believe that you'd go to the extents of activating him, and then pulling him off, activating the practice window, then taking him off IR, like what happened, I believe, earlier today, like officially. And so, he should be trending. He did practice the other day, and he looked fine in the video as well. So plan to play him, but have a pivot just in case. I don't think that they'll sit him, although we did see this a couple of weeks back when Mixon was ready to return, although Mixon wasn't on the IR. They had just kind of shelved him for a little bit. He was like week to week, then day to day, then week to week again, if you recall. So he did practice, and then out of nowhere, like phantomly, didn't show up to the game. He was ruled out on Sunday. So he did practice in a limited fashion on Friday. This was Mixon earlier in the season. So I wouldn't anticipate that happening with Nico. I think if he's good to go, he's good to go. It's been 4 weeks. And when the injury first initially happened, it wasn't that, it didn't look that severe. And I'll show you guys a video. I compiled a highlight video of some of the Texans' best plays thus far, but focusing more on the Nico Collins aspect, because we haven't seen him in 4 weeks, and it's just good to refresh our memory and our eyeballs a little bit, about just how good he is and how much he does help mask some of the O-line problems with some of the quick hitters, the slants, the quick screens, and just being open down the field when CJ is able to extend plays as well. So it should be a big help. That's a reason I think that the line moved closer in that instance from -5 to -3.5 in favor of the Lions. And then as well as that, the total point over under went from, I think it was 48 to 49. But hedging themselves, I guess, a little bit is Vegas. But to continue on with Nico really quickly, just to touch on that, most receiving yards per game since last season. And you have Nico on the list right there at number 3. And you got CD at number 1, right? Tyreek. So A.J. Brown after Nico, Jamar Chase. Still, even with that nasty game he had this last Thursday, I believe this graphic was from earlier today. So Nico Collins really putting it in on a per game basis. It's pretty awesome to see. Yeah. Shout out to Sauce Waka and the 713 for introducing us to the drip. That's right. Oh, that's what's up. Yeah. Hell yeah. So, yeah, Nico's still doing his thing. Like I said, he's a big part of why the points are swinging. Like I said, I believe that he will help the offensive line, mask some of their pass blocking issues, because they can scheme him open for some plays quickly. And like I said, on some of those, when CJ scrambling and holding onto the ball too long and ends up taking a sack, he took 8 sacks last week for negative 53 yards. He ended up scrambling 8 times for 56. So I think he finished with like a net total of 3 yards or something like that, regardless. But, they were in control of that game. Well, just to quickly recap the Jets for, about the first half, kind of slow, sluggish. Second half, came out and once again for the third week in a row didn't score any points or any touchdowns. In the second half. They do score points, or they have scored points, but they weren't able to get into the end zone in the second half as far as an offensive unit goes for the third straight week. So, a lot of that has been Nico Collins has been missing for, 3.5 of those or whatever, because he did exit on a touchdown pass reception with that hamstring injury as a long bomb. And so anyways, he's bringing that element back. And I believe that this, it'll help the Houston Texans offense tremendously. I know Bobby Slowick mentioned some things about, just getting back. You got to execute. They got to do their job better, right? And you got to do it well. And that's what that means by they asked, like, what does it mean to execute? And he says, you got to do your job and you got to do it well and you got to do it, consistently. So that's the point of emphasis for the offensive line. And we'll get into the offensive line in a little bit, but since we're talking so much about Nico Collins here in the early get-go, and I did mention that I have a video, I might as well just bust that bad boy out for you guys. That way you can take a look at it. Was working on it a little bit earlier today. So it's kind of like a mid-season highlight film with some of the plays that I didn't show in some of the previous films or little video clips that I've done in the past or whatever. But go ahead and take a look at the Texans mid-season highlights. Little break here with the beat. In the background is a Prime 1 beat on the production there, so pretty cool. And then, of course, the Neon Peacock here with the video edit. So go ahead and check this out. Grab some popcorn, grab a drink, chill out, listen to the music, and watch the beauty that is Nico Collins.
Head nod, see.
Fourth and goal, Stroud throws, caught, touchdown!
Head nod, see.
Mixon finds it. Stroud rolling. He's throwing deep. He's got a man. He hits him to the 20-yard line. Tank Bill.
And there it is. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little video clip I threw together this afternoon. Sorry, just words just running into each other there, but was able to pull that little video edit together, throwing it together, using the word together way too often, putting it all as a cohesive unit there. Some of the midseason highlights. I didn't do a lot of the Joe Mixon or the defense. I just wanted to kind of remind everybody that Nico Collins was a huge part of the Texans offense over the first month. So huge that I had to put the jersey on, but huge part of the offense over the first, like I mentioned, month of football. He was leading wide receivers in all types of categories, yards per game, receiving yards. He was literally barely fell off the top 10 list like not too long ago. He hasn't played football in a month. So just a really strong showing, great athlete. He's a huge dude, 6'3", paws 6'4", type of body frame, goes up there. And he's that alpha, to me, he's like what AJ Brown is for the Eagles, or what Jamar Chase is, or what Justin Jefferson is to these offenses. So being without Nico Collins for 4 games and then putting it on CJ Stroud like he's the worst or he's regressed or whatever is just absurd, right? He's missing his number 1 weapon, his best target, the number 1 wide receiver in several categories in the entire NFL through the first month of football. So I expect them to look different. I don't think that the offense will sputter. Not many games except for the 1 Minnesota game on the road. Also, over the last 3 of the last 4 games for the Houston Texans have been on the road without Nico Collins, right? So we know that what CJ Stroud numbers are just, in hostile environments against better ranked type defenses. The Jets are no joke, right? So at least defensively or as a team, we look at that Jets team, and they have a lot of talent on both sides of the paper. There's no reason why they shouldn't have, gotten to the third win of the season, especially at home on a short week versus an opponent who, had just lost Stephon Diggs the week before. So there's a lot of things that happen when you lose a key player like that. You don't necessarily just go out the next week and kill it. And we've seen that twice already with the Houston Texans, actually 3 times when they lost Joe Mixon and they had to travel up to Minnesota and play without him. Huge part of their offense was just missing. There was dysfunctionality and they couldn't get it going, right? And then later on when Mixon returns and we lose Nico Collins, kind of the same thing. Mixon's still killing it on the ground, doing a lot of damage in the first half, but the offense taking themselves out of scoring position by taking sacks because they can't extend drives because their number one guy who moves the chains is not there. So Nico Collins is the type of player who's getting 12, 11, 13, like 9 is a minimum as far as target volume per game. And he's a dude who hits on those. He's probably about 70% catch rate. And like I said, still was leading the NFL in several categories, even after the injury. So really good news to have him back. Main thing to take away from that is, like I said, Vegas kind of closed the line a little bit by 2 points. Take what you will from that. That happened a couple of times before in previous games, and the Texans weren't able to come out on top. Got to remember that even though they played horrible versus Green Bay, they were still right there, and they lost by a field goal last seconds in that one. So the team themselves has a lot of confidence. They feel like they didn't make any moves at the trade deadline. They didn't go out and trade for offensive line. They did bring in like La'el Collins. They got an offensive tackle they claimed from waivers from the New England Patriots. And then they brought in even more guys to the practice squad. They're going to try the iron sharpens iron and see if, having depth will help them shuffle some things up. I did hear today that that Jarrett Patterson has returned from concussion, and they're going to go ahead and start him at center. Jarrett Patterson played center all of last season for the Houston Texans, so this is the first time that he's going to be back in that position. They're moving Juice Scruggs, who's a really smart guy and does well, I believe, with some communication into that left guard spot now, right next to Laramie Tunsil to solidify CJ's blind spot. So now you have the previous center at the left guard position. We don't have Kenyon Green. They finally put him on IR. They swapped him out with Nico Collins for this coming week at the last second, trying to be kind of shady, I guess, or give the Lions, as little time to prepare for these things as possible. Same thing with the roof being open and the announcement there. It's probably going to be humid, although we did get a cool front here in Texas, at least in my area, but Houston is always muggy, and they're a few hours up north from where I am. But regardless, maybe that's another thing, that the roof is never open at NRG, and they're doing it on Sunday night. So, new era, time to get it. I think this is maybe the third time that they open the stadium, even for a primetime game. So fans usually beg for it. Weather should be good. Hopefully there's no rain or anything crazy like that, because we did see the Detroit Lions take care of business in Green Bay on the road in a bad weather game. They had no problem where, Jordan Love was a little banged up, a little nicked up on the groin pause. So we will see. Hopefully, like I said, the Texans now seemingly got a little healthier. We'll go over I guess we can go over the injury report. Might as well bring that out, talk about it a little bit. So, I did talk about the offensive line, and I just kind of briefly mentioned Joe Mixon, but Joe Mixon was named captain. He did have a nice quote about this. He said that, it's nice that the team has embraced him and thought of him this way. With Stephon Diggs now out, he was a big vocal leader for the Houston Texans. With him now out for the season, I'm glad that they've put the C on this man's uniform, and he's out there as a leader after half a season being in Houston and really taking on that role, being vocal, being a physical runner, being consistent. He's like a top 3 running back right now. He's up there with the Saquon and the Kyren and the Derrick Henry, I believe. It's just that unfortunate he had that high ankle sprain that knocked him out for a few weeks. But this man is dangerous. He looks rejuvenated, and I think that he's actually been the best fit for the Houston Texans. If the Texans missed on Saquon and they didn't say, "Oh, consolation prize Joe Mixon." Joe Mixon was made available via trade right before, the deadline the Bengals were going to have to cut him. So they needed to get something. The Texans received Joe Mixon for a 7th round pick. So the fact that they were able to trade a second for Stephon Diggs, used him for half a season, and then now he's gone, I feel that it's still a consolation prize because they were still able, just like you were able to draft Joe Mixon in the 4th round of your fantasy or 5th round of your fantasy draft. The Houston Texans completely stole him out from the Cincinnati Bengals, who are now having a shuffling of the guard over there. That's not even the right term, but they're just kind of having a RB carousels. Like with Zach Moss is the guy, they brought him in, they paid him, then he got injured, and he's out on the shelf on the IR. And so it's Chase Brown, the guy that they had there before, right? And now they've brought in more running back stuff from Chicago just to kind of muddy the water. So, it surprised me that Cincinnati didn't keep Joe Mixon. He seems like he did everything for them in the years when Joe Burrow was down or hurt and carried that offense. And so we're just lucky to really have him. And I'm glad that they made this guy the leader. That way people can be vocal and talk about the things they need to fix in this offense and carry the load and how they need to, handle things. And CJ Stroud said at the press conference that the team needs to have more fun. And, you don't have fun when you're not winning or you're not playing well, obviously, right? So offensive line things as well. They talked about, being, more prepared. They've studied. They looked at film. I wasn't impressed with the offensive line coach's talk out of the press conference. He didn't really have too many answers as far as things, but like I mentioned, sliding the old offensive line around and bringing up the new guys. So this will be the last time you ever see this. Kenyon Green, the left guard, is on IR. Shaq Mason will remain at right guard. Titus Howard will remain at right tackle. Juice Scruggs, the center, will move on over to replace Kenyon Green at the left guard. And Jarrett Patterson, who's returned from his concussion, will come in and play center. So at least shaking things up. And so the Texans play they do a lot of slide protection, slant blocking. The quarterback doesn't necessarily come out and call all of the protections in this particular offense. CJ Stroud doesn't really audible too much. He's trusting the offensive line or the center to recognize the mic and then call the protection. So CJ Stroud is worrying about the coverage, maybe audibling out of the play or communicating with his receivers and backs and not worrying so much about the protection, just knowing that the center called out so-and-so as the mic. That's, what's up. If anything, I should know, or they should have this covered for me, right? Oh, and I trust them. And so that's unfortunate because, he's in his 2nd year. He's not super into that where I don't think he's evolved yet to where they're going to let him do that. Or maybe they will here in the second half of the season, and he's going to have to come out and identify the mic and say, hey, that's the mic. This is what we're doing. This is the slide coverage. We're all slanting this way. If he comes, then this is the hot route. And so they're putting a lot on the offensive line. And Juice Scruggs is, he was injured a lot last year. He's basically like a rookie there. And then he's playing not out of position, but seemingly yes, right? The Texans didn't have a solid center. Anyway, I'm just glad that they're trying to change things up. They're going back with something that was familiar from last year in Jarrett Patterson, who was the center. And so if he can do that and take care of CJ Stroud that way, or if they give CJ a little bit of more responsibility and he's the one, like I said, identifying the mic and knowing where the blitz is coming from and where his hot route should be, then you won't see him getting happy feet, looking down and then taking a sack or trying to extend a play or whatever. And some of these, though, right, the line was just getting beat, but Kenyon Green is out of there. So I think that some of that, it will get fixed in itself because his pass blocking grades were horrible. We saw that. The Texans have been a decent run blocking team. I don't know if that's a testament to the offensive line or, like I mentioned before, he likes big butts and he cannot lie. I mean, he likes touchdowns and he cannot lie. Sir Joe Mix-a-Lot. So I would drop for that.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
So, yeah, he likes touchdowns and he cannot lie. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There go that boy over there on the left. Yeah, that's OT in the league. Yeah, don't remind me. He's not Nico on a snap count or any restrictions. I don't believe so. I mean, if they're going to play him, they're going to play him. I don't know why they would do that. I would not make him active if that was the case. And so since that question was brought up, and I can't seem to take down this. Hold on, where the heck? Oh, I'll just do this. And so, was a question, Nico on a snap count. Yeah. So the Texans are in a kind of weird, crazy predicament at the moment, right? They have a nice lead in their division. They're 6-3 overall. I believe the Lions are 7-1 or right. But yeah, here we go. So Houston is 6-3. The Chiefs are 8-0, right? If I'm not mistaken. So the Chiefs have 9 games left. Yeah, they have the bye, right? They're 8-0. They have 9 left, and they have their bye. Houston has 8 games left. They're at 6-3. I don't see them particularly catching Kansas City for that number 1 seed. So this particular game, as far as divisional stuff and gaining a lead, if they win, it doesn't help them much anywhere besides the overall record, right? So you have a nice cushion lead. You have 3 games. You're 3 games back of Kansas City. So like I said, I don't think with 8 games left you can catch Kansas City, right? Kansas City, you'd have to drop 3 games and you'd have to win out basically. So that's really, really tough. So the number 1 seed's out of the question, right? So you're basically playing for, you have Buffalo, right? You're 1 game back over of Buffalo because I think they already hit 7 wins, but you have the head-to-head, right? So that's cool. And then Pittsburgh's the other question mark as far as the teams, the 4 teams there in the seeding. And then, of course, the Ravens, right? But you get to play them. You get to still play the Ravens, after the bye and see what happens there. So you could possibly get that head-to-head. So this particular game, I don't know, people were like, what? I can't believe Peacock's saying this, but this particular game, it's not really that important as far as what the Texans are concerned with. So that's why I was like, if you're going to bring Nico Collins back, and this game's not as that important for the overall picture, then I wouldn't even risk him in the first place and put him out there to play, right? So the fact that he's carrying like a questionable tag and this stuff is why I mentioned that with Joe Mixon before. They did that for the Jacksonville game. They were going to roll him out. He practiced on a Friday. Looked like he was great in the film, and then they sat him, even though he could have played. So I believe Nico Collins' injury wasn't as bad as Mixon's, right? They put him on the IR just to kind of save him from himself. That way he would be fully back when, the time is now, right? And so I think there shouldn't be any restrictions and he should just be ready to go. Now, they could also be like the Texans and D'Amico, they always bounce back from a really bad game. They don't lose 2 games in a row. That's just not what has happened, dating all the way back to a certain period last year. They lost the first 2 games of the season, and that was basically it. They never lost 2 in a row after that. So the Texans tend to do really well in bounce back games. D'Amico has a beat on Jared Goff because he played with the Lions and D'Amico was with the Niners. With the Rams, and D'Amico was with the Niners, and they played so much. So he knows a little bit about that. I'll go over it on the injury report, but the Lions are down their left tackle. He's not going to be playing, so they're going to have a backup there, and that's huge as far as Danielle Hunter trying to get a matchup. I know Will Anderson Jr. is out, and he's not going to play this week, and I'll get there when I go over the injury report there. But there are little things and nuances here to where, okay, the Texans kind of snuck back in a little bit. We saw the line change. Maybe they do have a chance. Or like history has told us that they'll probably play a little bit better and may have a good chance to at least keep this game competitive. So we'll see how the Texans want to play it. If they wanted to just play it safe, then I wouldn't have even messed around with Nico or bring him off or moving things around, because you can only bring, I think, 8 players off of the IR, return 8 from once you put them on there. You can only do it so many times. The Texans got burned doing that last year, couldn't make any more moves. So even if like Tank Dell, let's say they made a Super Bowl run and they wanted to bring him back, they couldn't have because they had already brought back all of their IR guys or whatever for that particular time. So, sorry, I spun out of control when I just saw Nico being on a snap count, but those are my beliefs on that the Texans are it's a weird predicament. So it's basically, what do you believe, right? You also don't want to get embarrassed on national TV for the 2nd week in a row, right? So, that's why I think, hey, let's see Nico and Mixon together for the first time in a long time since week 1. It's week 10 right now, guys. So, I'm assuming that these guys are going to go out there, play hard. They made Mixon the captain. Nico has returned. His injury, I believe, wasn't super severe that they needed to put him on the IR, but I think they were playing it safe there as it is. And this was a little more gamesmanship and seeing what they were going to do personnel-wise and things of that nature. So, Kyle Ramos, what is up, my man? Hey, appreciate you coming in. Lions fan. Hey, okay, cool, man. Much props to the Lions. If you were here early in the broadcast, I mentioned that I don't think the Texans are going to win this game, but I do think that they can compete with some of these things if you just listen to some of that last stuff. But appreciate you being in here. Go ahead and give the channel a like and subscribe. We do this every week. I'm usually on Wednesdays, but because of the way the injury report was and all that crazy stuff with Nico Collins, I wanted to wait till I had some more information to get you guys the latest on this. So we're doing it on a Saturday, and I appreciate you rocking with me, man, even if you are a Lions fan. I hope you come back. If you play fantasy football, we do have a Sunday show. We do it's called The Grit Don't Quit, and it's on our main network channel, the GWN. Go ahead and it's short for Gen Wealth Net. You want to take a look at that. We're affiliated with some of those. And anyways, it's all fantasy football. We're giving you advice. We're talking NFL as well, and just giving props where they should be, right? And oh, I forgot to mention, folks, and I didn't even put my banner or my ticker up, so this is a good time to do it. You are watching the H-Town Huddle with the Neon Peacock. We are discussing the Week 10 Lions versus Texans Sunday night football preview. And at this time, you guys, if you go over to neonpeacockmerch.com, you can score extra soft t-shirts for $13 for the code extra cozy. And that is extra cozy, like you see it on the screen. I'll leave it there for the next little bit, but totally forgot about that. Sorry, got all wrapped up. We're 30 minutes into the broadcast here, and barely forgot to mention that. But hey, if you're rocking with me, limited time only right now, the extra soft tees are $13 with code extra cozy. Go on and head over to neonpeacockmerch.com. That is our sponsor. Check out the t-shirts. We got all kinds of fantasy goodness. We have Nico Collins. We have Houston Texans shirts. I even have Kyle. I have some Lions gear up there, dude. I have an Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God up there. I have Jahmyr Gibbs and I think Goff, or it might be somebody else, but it's kind of like NBA Jam style with the players on there. So go ahead and take a look. That's part of the Nickname Hall of Fame series that we do on the show. And if you have an idea for a t-shirt, throw it up in the comments, hit me up on my socials, and it can be done is the motto, so I can create something for you. So really appreciate that. And like I said, just make sure you're liking and subscribing, man. That's all you got to do. And you can rock with us anytime. Really appreciate that stuff. All right. You're not taking it lightly. I didn't say you all were taking it lightly. Yeah, prayers up for Diggs, man. I do hope, I mentioned it when the injury happened, that, he's able to find a home somewhere else. Or, maybe if things are working out well and he's recovering okay and he really liked it in the H-Town, maybe he'd be willing to take some sort of pay cut or be signed later on this season or something like that. But, he was really doing decent in the Houston Texans offense. And like I mentioned, he was basically a captain here, but mixing and now stepping up in that role, that captain's role for the offense. And you like to see that, like I mentioned, Nico was out of the lineup on IR. So it's really good. That's a boost. It would have probably been a sad game. I wouldn't have wanted to probably do an H-Town Huddle this week if Nico and both Will Anderson weren't playing. So at least him returning, some of our other guys like Aziz Al-Shire and Jimmy Ward coming back on the defense also helps boost my confidence a little bit. And then the fact that the Texans are finally back at home for a home game, in prime time. It's been 3 out of the last 4 weeks that they've been on the road. So it seems like it's been a while. And then they're breaking out the new battle red uniform. So just little motivational things, hopefully to get these guys amped up and ready for this game. Like I said, and it's an overall whole that's not like one of the more pivotal games as far as them like taking any steps forward in the division to secure, their shot in the tournament. But as far as showcasing what you got, what kind of team you are, you've been smacked in the mouth the last couple of weeks, and it's been on national TV. And then you're going to have another one versus the Cowboys the following Monday night. So this is a good test here. It's a really good opportunity because it's a great Detroit Lions team. Mentioned it with Bogart the other day when we were doing one of the other streams. Like, the Lions are my favorite team in the NFC. Like, I love them to death. I have a lot of pieces for fantasy football purposes. Goff was one of those guys that I was targeting. Unfortunately, he's been so efficient and the run game's been so great that he doesn't need to throw a bunch of touchdowns or anything like that. So it hasn't been helping us too much for fantasy football, but it's also been the opposite end of the spectrum with CJ Stroud. Although I do believe that, CJ Stroud being at home with Nico Collins back may be a, borderline QB1 right this week with that. So if you have to rock with that, then, you could at least feel a little bit more confident now that Nico Collins is back for sure. But it is what it is there. I talked about Nico as far as receiving yards per game. And it's going to be tough because the Lions have a great defense in general. I think both of these teams' defenses are really good. And kind of similarly, they're going to have to attack down the field with big plays in order to move the football is my belief. Find time for the quarterback. I know the freaking Lions offensive line is great. So if they can come out and dominate just with the 2 running backs like they normally do, then it's going to be game over, in my opinion. So we'll see how it goes. I thought this was funny, though. Lions are just breaking curses this year. They broke the Seahawks curse. They broke the Cowboys curse, the Greg Olsen curse, the Titans curse. the Packers election year curse, and then the Texans have won, I believe, the last 4 meetings, so there is a Texans curse there as well in that regard. So Lions know what's up. I think they are also riding a 6. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a 6-game win streak, and that the CJ Stroud has a 4-game home win streak going on this season. So somebody's win streak's coming to an end. A couple of curses are being broken this week. So there are some sub storylines that are going on within this game as well in those regards. So a lot of little things to pay attention. It's become slowly a very intriguing game. Like I said, it seemed like there was some gamesmanship going on with the way the Texans were handling their injuries, but at the same time, they also did this a few weeks back with Joe Mixon. So I don't think it's any kind of like subterfuge trickery. I just think it's the way that they're doing stuff this season. They're trying something different. So if they can get away with that and not keeping us in the dark until, Friday or Saturday, then cool, I guess. If there's like a loophole from IR, activations or whatever it is, but cool, right? It's just making the game more interesting. Yeah, make sure you guys are subscribing and hitting the like. Appreciate that, Derek. Yay, what is up, Song? What's going on? I think Tank will be fine even with Nico back. Oh, of course. I think that that opens up things for Tank though. And this last week he was able to, as a focal point versus a good Jets defense, still get downfield and make a couple big plays. He had a catch of over 40 and a catch of over 50. That was the bulk of it, but he was also targeted 9 times, and I think he had 6 or 7 receptions, 6 receptions. So 6 for 126 on 9 targets is really good, considering you're playing a tough Jets secondary, right? And he was the number 1. He was the focal point, which everybody was like, okay, that's the guy they're going to try to get the ball to, and he was still able to pop off for 126. Good sign there, good sign. Unfortunately, like I said, the offense stalled on certain situations. I think even on that drive where he got him all the way down the field, CJ ended up taking a couple sacks, knocked him out of field goal range, and made it tougher. And Fairbairn, missed a field goal, which is very uncharacteristic. But that field is weird. We had Will Anderson get hurt, had a concussion from CJ Stroud on it last year. They just haven't played well in New York the last 2 seasons. So, it is what it is. Yes, I'm extremely happy that Nico Collins is back, my friend. I mean, let's celebrate. Let's see. Feels good. Wow. So that hit like a shot of adrenaline yesterday when we were doing the morning show to wake your game up. So yeah, it was good stuff, man. Like we love to have Nico Collins back in the lineup, and we love to cheer for him. He's just a great guy. He's just goes out there and does his business. So hopefully he's able to come right back in, pause, and be in that form that he was before he left. And might as well celebrate now and feel good now, because Sunday night could turn into a bloodbath if things look the way they've looked on the offensive line the last couple of weeks. But hopefully they've kind of fixed some of that stuff. If they can scheme some things and give CJ Stroud a little bit of time, at least it won't be so disastrous to watch as a Texans fan this week. But very tough defense, very tough test. Jets supposedly, according to Bobby Slowick, was the toughest defense that they faced so far. And I say so far because I think this week is going to be the toughest defense that they've faced during the season. So, yeah, I mentioned the play it safe strategy with Nico and bringing him back. Big game, not a big game. To me as a fan, I want them to go out there and play well, and it would be nice if they would be in the position somewhere in the fourth quarter to take the lead or hold on or do something, right? So that's all you want to play for. Texans, most of their games have been close in that matter. So even last week, they had the lead on the road. Couple of mishaps, 2 missed field goals, offensive linemen fumbling, making CJ Stroud fumble while they're going in for a score. That's another potential at least 3 points. So it's a 9-point change there, plus the swing. And then, they didn't call a touchdown, and then they changed it to a touchdown. Still an amazing catch / effort. But, you could look at that and say it was maybe incomplete in 2 other areas. But I don't know. I don't know what a catch is anymore. And as a Texans fan, I'm not going to admit that, that was a clean, clear catch by Garrett Wilson. But great play nonetheless. And those are the plays that I'm saying the Texans are susceptible to. So you might get a Jameson Williams over the top, or maybe even a Monroe if he gets lost or gets matched up with Jalen Petrie for some weird reason. But with Jimmy Ward back in the lineup, Eric Murray, making sure that people are in the right spots, especially Jimmy Ward being a captain and saying, hey, like, this is a mismatch, let's call a timeout. Like, that probably would have happened We've seen that happen a couple of times with the Texans. Saw the Packers do it. It was what I thought was an incomplete pass. They went hurry up and ran a back shoulder fade or whatever to the back of the end zone. The play could have been challenged, and it would have been a fumble. Would have changed the complexity of the entire game. So a lot of little things here that I think the Texans still need to learn from. And CJ Stroud mentioned that sometimes you got to get hit in the mouth, and sometimes you got to get hit in the mouth multiple times before you change. And I think that he was talking about the coaching staff and the offensive line. And so there has been a change, and let's do it. Now you don't have to worry about putting up, looking bad because we're not starting our first round draft pick that was a bust in Kenyon Green, the best offensive tackle, or offensive lineman, like Derek was mentioning. And so that pressure's off. We wash that crap out the window. Let's start winning some games. Let's protect CJ Stroud because, if you can't keep the man upright, I think I've been going and just blabbering, but I have all these cool little banners, right? And here's that stuff that I was talking about, the Texans being cautious, right? Having the luxury. The number 2 seed is the regular season ceiling, and the floor is the division title. They should be able to, even if they fall ass backwards, win the division, right? Here's some more Nico Collins stats before I move completely off of him. But let me see. Boom, 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 boom. There they are on the bottom. So explosive plays. These are all the things that he was leading the league in before he got injured. Receiving first downs, the team's air yards, the longest receptions, the list goes on and on. So getting Nico Collins back is huge for the Houston Texans, obviously, right? And not only that, getting battle red Nico Collins back is huge because last season in battle red uniforms, Nico Collins went 7 for 168 with 2, and then 7 for 104 with 1. So we need a battle red Nico Collins this week is all I'm saying, right? But here's the point I did want to get to about CJ Stroud getting hit and a lot of pressures coming here. So 30, second most sacked quarterback in the NFL behind Deshaun Watson, who's out of the league right now, or at least for the season with the injury because of these sacks. So still, that's pretty embarrassing. But a lot of those were Deshaun Watson's faults, to be honest. So over the last 3 games, though, that sack percentage allowed is the worst by the Houston Texans offensive line. The second half points, like I mentioned, not scoring touchdowns. They are kicking field goals, but 31st in the league. So talk about not being able to make adjustments. Bobby Slowick said everybody makes adjustments, and apparently they're not adjusting better than the other team. So what's going on there? And then in the red zone, they're 30th. So like I mentioned, getting into the red zone and then not coming away with touchdowns, losing close games by a field or possession, shooting yourself in the foot, a lot of little things that, they just need to clean up. If they can play clean football, do their damn jobs like we've seen them do a couple of games, then I think that they can compete and have an opportunity to win any game. But we haven't seen that type of football from them consistently lately. Like I mentioned, hopefully Nico Collins, attributes to a positive regression in those areas, right? So, and then we've also talked about the 30 sacks, CJ kind of seeing, getting happy feet in the pocket, kind of having to look down and not keeping his eyes downfield. And so, the offensive line coach obviously said not happy about it. And that's probably the best thing I've heard from him because he wasn't available via video. It was only audio, which is super weird to the media in the first place. But I was already upset, but now that I've seen a change and a shuffling of what they're doing with the offensive line, I at least feel a little bit better about that. But can't feel great about the way that it's looked. We need to see something, right? And hopefully, like I said, this is a huge test and a great op, so hopefully they can do something about it. But he has the second most quick pressures, 74, and the most unblocked, 28 pressures, right? And his average time to the pressure is 2.5 seconds. That's the 9th fastest. And under those pressures, he's 8 of 10 for 194 yards. That's pretty darn good, actually, to Nico Collins. So getting Nico Collins back, he'll be 80% on those throws. That's really good as opposed to the 52% when Nico Collins isn't in the game. So you're seeing almost a 30% increase of, just completing the football down the field when he's being pressured when Nico Collins is in the game. So you're talking 30%, that's 1 in every 3. Let's say it's a 3rd and 7 or whatever, right? Because I think the Texans lead the league in 3rd and longs. They've run the most in the entire NFL because Bobby Slowick wants to run it on first down and then play action on second down with pressure in your face and then take a sack. So it's 3rd and 13. Anyway, So, you know, third and longs are, and then the pressure comes, and then if there's no Nico Collins there, drops a whole 30% in trying to just even complete a pass downfield. So I think that Nico Collins being back, just his presence being back, should help a lot. And of course, if he when targeted, catch radius is huge. He can win one-on-ones. He can win versus zone. He's even better when it's man. If you guys want to play, you know, thirds, you want to play cover three, like I mentioned. You want to play man. You want to play man under halves or whatever. He'll burn you in man. And then otherwise, you know, if they can give CJ Stroud some time, then, you know, he can usually pick you apart. But it all starts with just moving the football, running it, and then going to Nico constantly, I guess, when he is under pressure. But, you know, like I mentioned, it'll help. It'll help. But running back Joe Mixon on the new Battle Red uniforms, he did talk about it in the locker room. He said, I ain't never seen no jersey like that. Them super hard. And that usually, you know, when these guys look good, they play good, they get pumped up for stuff like this, trust me. So especially the new helmets, the chromed out candy paint stuff. I'm excited to see that on Sunday night. Thank you. But us in Detroit rock with the Texans, not the Cowgirls. Hey, that's what's up. Yeah. I feel you on that. Yeah, Derek's a Cowboys fan. That's funny, dude. Let's see. Oh, that's what's up. Good deal. Me too. Earlier, I had to that's why the pod started at 4:20, right on time. Yes, sir, Philip. Aziz should be a full go. So I'll go ahead and let me pull up the injury report for the Texans right here. All right, and boom. Oh, and I have a banner up, so I can't see. Hold on. Okay. Here we go. So there he is. He was limited, and then he was full on Friday. Will Anderson is out with the ankle injury that he suffered in New Jersey. Go figure. Somebody got hurt in New Jersey, in the Meadowlands. And then all the guys that are still officially questionable. Nico Tank was added, limited on Friday after not practicing, taking like 2 veteran days. It's weird. I think he'll be fine. It's just a back thing. I don't know. I guess you have to list it. Futakasi, who didn't practice all week, is listed as questionable, which is weird. But he's another one of those interior defensive linemen who, you know, we acquired in the trade, has been making some moves down there for us. And then Jake Hansen, also questionable in the same type of fashion, even though he was limited Wednesday and went downgraded to didn't practice. Horton, Hughes should be okay. Mason, the offensive line should be fine. Jeff Okuda, who's activated off the IR, cornerback depth, making a debut, hopefully. He's questionable. And then Jared Patterson, like I mentioned, is going to come in and play center, thank goodness. Damian Pierce is out. I don't know about the durability of that guy. Probably should have traded him when we had the chance. Kept Cam Akers. Cam Akers traded away. Kind of looks silly now with Damian Pierce not being available. Maybe J.J. Taylor will get some more run like he did against Buffalo. I don't know. I know Pierce was our main returner, so it's probably going to be Sims now returning some kicks is my guess. And he had a couple of questionable plays that nearly cost us some divisional games earlier in the year. So we'll see what's up there. And then I mentioned Jimmy Ward is back to full strength. So that's also good to see. Joe Mixon, though, there's the ticker at the bottom over the past couple of weeks, just to let you guys know how efficient he's been. This is just over the last couple of weeks. That's where he ranks in a lot of these categories. 18 missed tackles forced, that's second. 12 runs of 10 plus yards, that's tied for first. Yada, yada, yada. Candy paint dripping. Yeah, sad time for the Cowboys right now. Yeah, Derek, I do got to run the promo, but I don't have the video up with this particular brand. I can switch real quick. We can run the promo real fast on the GWN network, and then we'll switch right back to the H-Town Huddle. So now we're on the GWN network. All right. And here's the watch party I could keep this on and do some of this stuff. Cool. So let's go ahead and take a break and listen to something from our sponsor, neonpeacockmerch.com. Make sure you guys are going out there and checking that out. You can use code something soft. Easy soft? I forgot what it was. I'll put it up right now. But watch the promo first. All right, there you have it. Was able to do that kind of seamlessly without making it too weird, but you are still watching the H-Town Huddle, although we're doing our Week 10 Lions versus Texans preview. So, all right, we are pushing positivity. Thank you guys for hanging out with me so far. Like I mentioned, Extra Cozy is the promo code to use upon checkout for $13 extra soft tees. All right, let's continue. Let's continue with the show. Good deal. Make sure, like I said, you guys are checking out the Gen Wealth Net sisterhood, brother, mothership, I meant to say, with all the sister channels. So, yeah, we're doing it. Got all the drops in the usual spots now, so I feel better about that. Cool. All right, let's do it. All right, where was I? Yes, sir, we're here. What's that? Yeah, there's another sale going on right now. That's right. Check those out. Use the promo code Extra Cozy and check out everything. Get your allegedly t-shirts and sweaters and sweatshirts. That is one of the staple words on the show. Get your allegedly shirts. All right, make sure you're hanging out with us doing that. Somebody's just hanging out on the outside of my front porch. I think it's one of my son's friends. Coming to check and see if he wants to go to the park, maybe. I don't know. Make it rain. All right, let's try to get back on track. I'm being distracted here. Yeah, we were talking about Joe Mixon over the past 3 weeks. Like I said, yards after contact, nearly 270, looking crazy. We did talk about the roof being open, so there's another thing going on there. And then probably one of the last points here, Stingley having the 5th lowest passer rating among CBs when targeted in man, 52.1%. And then 65% covered success rate in man. And so if they stick this guy on a Mun-Ra, which I think would probably be the best case scenario for the Houston Texans defense, just let him shadow and let him run man. But we'll see what the Texans game plan is. I trust Nico Ryans as far as the defense goes. They've been holding most of their opponents to under 20 or low 20s if it's a good offense. So I feel pretty good in those regards about the defense at least keeping them in the game. Last week, they weren't able to turn the Jets over, and I think that was a big deal. They basically dropped a pick 6 on Aaron Rodgers at one point, which would have helped a lot, right? But, you can't bank on the defense to be scoring like that all the time or getting all the turnovers. But it'd be nice to bounce back in that regards and get something or at least a play like that to help the Houston Texans because the turnover battle with that margin, it makes a big difference. But heading back to, let's see, I think I touched on everything. The second half struggles, I talked about it, and everybody adjusting. The Jets defense being really good ops. So, yeah, and then CJ just wanting to have fun and trust people. But he did seem very confident in the press conferences. So, he just said that, he needed to remind the team and some of the guys that, they need to have fun and be thankful, basically, like they're having these opportunities to play these games. And the guys that are in locker room still right now at this moment are healthy or getting healthy, and they're 6-3, right? And for some reason, it feels really bad. They have one less win than the Lions do. And it feels like for some reason the season's over or people are packing it in or whatever it may be. But, they have 3 really winnable games after this game. So you got to go out there, still put your best foot forward, play hard, good looking football. And if you can do that, I mean, regardless of what happens, right? If they come out of there and you're 6-4, like I said, you have a really good chance or an easy chance to steal away the next 3 games versus a broken down Cowboys team. It's still within Texas. You're not traveling really far. Then you face the Titans and then the Jaguars. So you've already swept the Colts. Like I said, the division could be in the bag. You'd have to have I believe you'd have to have one of those other 2 teams win out and then still have one more win over the Texans in order to take the division. So kind of a long shot for somebody to come and sweep the rug out from underneath the Texans in the division. But that being said, you still, like I said, you don't want to come out and get embarrassed for the second week in a row on national TV when people are, and it sounds like D'Amico was already kind of in the press conference saying like there's a narrative out there, and so he's hearing noise, and it's something that D'Amico Ryan says like he never does. Like they don't pay attention to the outside noise. Well, I feel like they're hearing it or feeling it, and people are asking the questions, and they didn't have many answers for it, and they haven't had any answers for it other than we need to execute and play better. But we did see the change now. They've moved that piece of trash off the offensive line. Unfortunate, I don't want to call him that, but unfortunately it was because of an injury. I think that they should have done that beforehand, not wait for the injury or whatever it was. But anyway, the change has come. We have Jared Patterson inserted now as the starting center. We've moved Juice Scruggs, who's a good center, I think, not great, right? I think that they put him back into his natural position, right? So now he can play guard. And then they even have Blake Fisher, who they just drafted, who's a good guard as well. So there's room to still do things. Kendrick Green, I don't think worked out. They were doing the 2 green things for the first half of the season. Let's put that behind us. We have a little month to evaluate this look going forward, and then we have some of the guys on the practice squad as well. So let's see what we got, and let's see if we can help CJ Stroud. And if we can give CJ Stroud time, then he's very dangerous. He can pick you apart. He'll find the open guy, or he can use his legs to either extend a play or pick up a few yards and get out of bounds or take a slide. So that it's going to be very difficult to run on Detroit, right? Obviously, but it's also going to be difficult, I believe, for Detroit to run on Houston, even though Will Anderson isn't in the game. Interior defensive line has been playing really well. Tim Settle Jr. and some of those other guys, Fatukasi if he plays. So I think it's going to be interesting. It might be a little bit of a feeling out process, kind of like a boxing match. And then by the end, we'll see if the Texans can withstand some of the punches and not have wobbly knees, and for it to turn into a knockout towards the end. So that's what we're looking forward to, right? Like I said, the over/under is 49, and it's a -3. I don't know what the implied point total there is, but something around 27-20. I'm going to go ahead and give it to the Lions on this one, winning by a touchdown, covering the spread on the road because they played so well versus Green Bay last week in the ring. And they won 6 in a row. They're going to break the curse. They're going to beat the Texans here. So this is the first time all year that I'm taking somebody else over the Houston Texans, like legit. I think I did it once with the Packers also, right before I changed my mind, and I said 28-24. So this is the second time I do it, and I was correct on that one. And this one I'm taking the Lions to win by a touchdown at least here. So 27-20 is my prediction. It's going to hit the under because I believe in the defenses here. Let me know if you guys have any other things that you want to talk about there as far as starters on the IDP levels, or I wouldn't be starting Schultz necessarily against this team. He hasn't really done much all season, so just drop candidate, throw him on the waiver wire. Tank Dell, I feel confident because of Nico Collins coming back. So in the game that he put forth last week, Nico, if he's back, right, he's got to start him. I think a lot of people are just depending on him. I would be sitting CJ Stroud though, just in case Lions defense may turn him over. The secondary, they're ball hawks over there, and like our good friend in the chat mentioned, they're not taking it lightly. So I do like the way that Houston plays on the road. I mean, at home versus on the road, and I do like the way they play when they break out new uniforms or new traditional things. And I do like the way that they play at home during primetime games. So that's where the little bit of the edge is, and I do expect them to put up at least 20 points. They've been averaging that recently, so hopefully if they can get both Mixon and Collins going, though, it might be a little bit more interesting. But all in all, it should be a good game and hopefully make for a great Sunday night football game. And make sure that you guys are checking the Gen Welp Net out. I know my bros will be up on the stream. I am extremely superstitious. The last time I did this on Halloween, a lot of bad things happened. It was very spooky. I even stepped in dog poop. So I won't be streaming with the guys for this game. Maybe jump on after the game, right after, just to give a quick reaction. But we'll set it up that way. But appreciate everybody, I guess, for chilling out. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I hit the hour mark. That's typically the way I like to do it. So we'll jump back on over to the H-Town Huddle deal there. Those are the curses I was talking about. There's Dan. Just a quick thing. We did the interior offensive line for the Texans has allowed a combined 20.5 sacks this season. That's the most in the NFL since week 4. And the Lions defensive tackle, Aleem McNeil, has 24 QB pressures by himself, and that's tied for the 8th most in the NFL, tied for first amongst defensive tackles. So that's just something for y'all to pay attention to. CJ Stroud could still be under a lot of pressure if they don't fix the interior offensive line. But one thing that we didn't go over was the injury report for the Lions at Houston. The big one that may surprise some people, because I briefly mentioned it, but I forgot to kind of like bank on it, is that Taylor Decker is out with a shoulder injury. That's the left guard for the Detroit Lions. That's Jared Goff's blind spot. And a guy who's kind of familiar with the Lions, Danielle Hunter, former Minnesota Viking, should hope to get some mismatches on that backup left tackle, hopefully. Zadarius Smith also questionable, so the newly acquired help, if he's not out there, it's just a bunch of guys after that. So something to keep an eye on just before kickoff, I guess, or whenever the final. This is kind of like the final injury report before the game, but since it's a Sunday nighter, we probably won't get anything till tomorrow afternoon. But when that does break and you guys find out, then you may be able to, edge a bet, right, or something, or tweak your prediction or whatever it may be if you guys are the bettors there. So just something to keep an eye on, like I said. But Taylor Decker is out. That's a real big one for me there. And, they're not completely, like I said, completely healthy the rest of the way there. But Taylor Decker, the huge one at left tackle for the Detroit Lions there. So hopefully the Texans can take advantage of that, and maybe it even affects the run game a tad as well. So we do know how them left tackles are really important to the functionality of offensive lines. And then one more thing that I did want to talk about, the way that the Houston Texans play offensive line, and I hope nobody's getting dizzy with the aerial coverage that I have going on in the background. But the one last thing that I did want to say about the Texans offensive line is that they run a lot of slant. They run a lot of slant coverage. They'll leave the left tackle one-on-one with usually the best player, and then the rest of the guys are going to operate as a unit, right? So you have one guy one-on-one, and then everybody else is going to slant down this way. The center or whoever it is going to call the protection and the mic. But you have one guy one-on-one blocking, and then the rest of the guys working together and passing people off, right? And so if there's any miscommunication, or if there's a hole, or if they're not working cohesively, then that scheme doesn't work, right? And so you got to try different combinations and get the guys that aren't working out of there. So you saw a lot of that stuff happening, somebody passing somebody off to somebody else, a double team going to the right side to help out Titus Howard when it should have been going the other way to help out your left guard who sucks ass. So if the Texans can maybe create more blocking schemes where they're actually one-on-one and they're not, slanting so much. I know that's part of the basic Shanahanian style of play, where you run that zone run, and you run it, and then you hard play action and you boot the other way, right? And that's why they slant block that way and you block that way. But if it's not freaking working, then they have to abandon it or hide it or do it in better ways. So hopefully these Texans, during this mini bye week that I also didn't mention, that kind of plays in their favor, because they played the Thursday night game. They got a mini bye. They got to reset. CJ Stroud and the team, Joe Mixon, got named a captain, and they held a 2-hour-long player and coaches meeting where apparently Joe Mixon called out coaches. And my guess is it was the offensive line coach, Bobby Slowick, maybe, for the way the positions that they're putting CJ in. I mean, you're not putting out your best 5 offensive linemen. You're not calling the best plays in those situations to protect CJ Stroud to get the ball out quickly when you're having protection issues. So I'm sure that they've talked about that because everybody else who has eyeballs and is a Houston Texans fan is talking about it. So I'm sure that had a trickle-down effect at some point, and they've heard what they need to be fixed. They've watched film, and they've addressed the issues. They know what they need to do, and now it's just going out there, executing and having fun. Don't worry so much about it. Just go out there and do it. And I think that happened. They hit a stretch of that last year where they were just like, okay, now we're just going to do it. We're just doing it, and having that confidence in each other and playing and having fun. If we can see that from the offense, and we'll finally see that complete Houston Texans team that we kind of saw in week 1 versus the Colts, but we really haven't seen because of various injuries to multiple stars in the 5-headed monster category that CJ Stroud talked about. So even though Dalton Schultz hasn't been part of the 5-headed monster. Anyway, so I would have just included CJ as that monster instead of Schultz. But anyway, yeah, that's my rant for that. That's basically all I got on that. Let's go ahead and check out a couple of other, I guess I got another video before I leave you guys. Well, it's not anything new. If you saw the one off the top, we haven't talked about, or I haven't shown the Texans defense in a while, but so Azeez Alshire hasn't been around, neither has Jimmy Ward. So here's a couple of highlights from one of their better games versus the Patriots.
Are you right here, man? Hey, for 60 minutes, one rep at a time. Don't make no faults. I need everybody with you. Set the tone. If they ain't whip, use this. Hey, take something, take some three. 1, 2, 3, hands in.
Man, that got me in the mood. So really excited. Excuse me. Really excited for the game this weekend. I'm pumped. I'm pumped that Nico Collins is back. Let's watch that midseason highlight video again.
Head nod, seek.
Fourth and goal. Stroud throws. Caught. Touchdown.
Head nod, seek.
Mixon. Stroud rolling. He's throwing deep. He's got a man. He hits him to the 20-yard line. Tank Dill.
Yeah. Make sure you're heading over to neonpeacockmerch.com. Get yourself a Nico Freako t-shirt right here for the Red Out. Won't get here in time for the game, unfortunately. It is tomorrow, but you'll have it by next week. That's all I got to say. And you can save on shipping. You keep on adding more shirts into your cart, right? We do have other various sales going on, and we got more than just t-shirts. We got hoodies, cups, mugs, rugs, tugs, bugs. Joking, but got all kinds of stuff up there. Go ahead and take a look. neonpeacockmerch.com. Shout out to our sponsor. Appreciate that. Make sure you're checking that out at the checkout for $13 t-shirts, the extra cozy ones with promo code extra cozy. All right, man. Appreciate everybody rocking with me, checking out those music videos. If you if you liked them music videos, you know, I also do edits. I do graphic work, like everything that you see on here and the GWN, all of the thumbnails that you see on our YouTubes. So if you guys need any work like that, just get at me. You know, I'll take Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, all that good stuff. And I have very reasonable prices. Like I said, somebody even said, how's he making money with $13 t-shirts? I'm not, man. I'm doing it for the love of the game and just to have really cool stuff that looks great when you wear it, right? So, and really cheap. Gotta get that. Let's see, what do we got here? Don't matter. We face Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Detroit versus everybody. All right, Don Burr. I mean, like I said, I have a lot of respect for Detroit, and I didn't say that, you know, they were gonna, you know, give it up, but Nico just helps our offense, and it makes me feel a lot better heading into this deal. What, we got cut? Oh, we probably got cut for that's weird. Maybe for one of the last video I played. I don't know. That's strange. YouTube be wildin', but we were still up on Twitch, I believe, for a minute. But thank you for the info. Didn't realize we got cut. I probably won't play that video next time, but we already rocked with all the cool content that everybody needed. So I'm glad that we're back. What was that last video that I played? That's weird. We shouldn't have gotten cut. That's really weird. Yeah, those are the mid-season highlights. So interesting. I'll take a look and check it out. But either way, it'll probably just be like a video warning. That's super strange because I cut out everything and I edited it myself too. So strange. Anyway, well, appreciate everybody rocking with me for the evening. Like I said, we'll be back hopefully on Wednesday, but we will also see how that plays out. If the injury reports still seem to be lagging, then maybe the huddle will move it over to like a Friday or a Saturday. That way we can get all the information. Everybody's ready to rock and roll with the most up-to-date stuff, especially for fantasy purposes. So like I said, I didn't really touch much on the Lions side of football because this is a Texans podcast, but obviously you're feeling fine starting Gibbs. Yeah, Monty has been great all season, especially in finding the end zone. Seems like he's the kind of guy that they just bring out so they can pulverize the defense a little bit and soften it up for Gibbs. So we'll see if the Texans D can hold, at least in the early part of the game, and kind of stifle that plan of attack, because then they'll take those shots, right? So Jameson Williams, he's probably like a boomer bust flex play, but off of a suspension and it's not an injury, I'd be more inclined to play him than not. Sam Laporta for me, I did peg him as my bust for fantasy football. He was the number one pick that I put up there as far as because of where you were drafting him, not being able to return the value. And he's done even worse than that. So I wouldn't be super confident start putting him in fantasy lineups, especially because I believe Texans are the number 2 ranked defense versus tight ends giving up fantasy points. So just, if you have a better matchup with a decent tight end, then I'd probably look that direction. But otherwise, you have to start Laporta because of where you drafted him. But it's unfortunate that you're doing that. If you listened to the show a couple months back, I would have said, don't draft him at where he's being drafted. Not that he's not a great tight end, but or that he might, not that he won't find the end zone or something in this game, right? So I'm just saying that just a little bit of caution. If you have other options, maybe just kind of look at those before you do that. It's not an auto start at tight end. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously in the wide receiver 1, you're firing him up. I think he's had a touchdown in like 7 straight games or something like that. So if that streak continues or not, we'll see. Texans, like I mentioned, are susceptible to giving up a big play if the other team's offensive line holds, and the Detroit Lions have a great offensive line. So the only interesting thing, like I said, to monitor would be their left tackle being out, right? So that's the one thing. If there's not a lot of time, maybe those shots don't come down the field, and the Texans are known for, the defenses kind of mirror each other. I believe it's just the Texans a little bit better at pressuring since the Lions have unfortunately lost Hutchinson for the year. So, like I said, I like the Lions a lot. That's my team on the NFC side. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I actually picked this as a Super Bowl matchup. So Texans, unfortunately, kind of sputtering a little bit, but getting some guys back, or once they do get back full strength, I think at the end of this month and a month from now, I'll feel a lot better than the way I feel right now going into this game, or maybe even coming out of this game. So, but we'll see where it is. You just got to go out there, play your best kind of football, and hopefully nobody gets hurt on either side, especially for fantasy purposes. It's been a whack-ass year, so you don't want to see any of that. But yeah. All right. Cool deal, man. Well, appreciate everybody for rocking with me. I'll go back to see what part got cut because it's really weird. If it was from the video I made today, it shouldn't be because the audio is our own audio. It's from Prime One. And the video I altered and cut everything. So, and then I even did my own remix of the audio. Maybe it's because I used the announcer's voice in the background. That might be it. Next time I won't. Like it was just those small clips. Now that I think about it, maybe that's what it was. But you live and you learn. Hopefully, YouTube, you don't screw us over. But appreciate everybody. Like I said, we'll be back next week. Hopefully the Texans will have notched another win, or at least we can hold our head up high with a close game. But bid you all adieu. Everybody have a safe and happy weekend, and we'll see you. Enjoy the football games.